What's the most supernatural experience you've ever had? I'm almost 100% positive I either had something follow me from my mom's house I lived in and then my grandmother's house or two separate entities. Starting at my mom's, I had this fire truck toy that would randomly start flashing and wailing when it was turned off after subtly letting my mom know what was happening. She removed the batteries and at night, lo and behold, the damn thing scared the shit out of me, wailing and flashing its lights. I slept on an indoor porch that had been modified to become my bedroom. The house was over 100 years old, so I mentioned this because there was a shaded window from my room to the kitchen. I would on multiple occasions see shadows of people walking around in the kitchen when I knew that my grandparents were asleep. They were never that quiet. Lastly, and I know this sounds insane, and I know damn well it was not Santa, and couldn't have been a vagrant because we literally lived in the middle of nowhere. But Christmas Eve I saw the shadow of a fat man walk in front of my window, and even at that age I knew Santa didn't exist, and judging from the other things I saw, I thought it was whatever was in my house.u/RIMC coin 95. I won't tell my whole story because it involves so many and long-lived supernatural experiences. I will tell how it began in hopes that someone may have had a similar experience. It was years ago, around 2004 or 2005, when I was between my junior and senior year of college. I had decided to spend the summer on campus with other friends. Well, myself and a few friends went out to a casual bar on a random Wednesday night. We had just began to drink and I was sitting up at the bar joking with some gals when I noticed a woman at the other end of the bar near the entrance staring at me. She seemed so out of place, as she was wearing a black evening gown. She was a white woman with long jet black hair and gorgeous. I felt something was strange but just dismissed it and continued to socialize with the gals. The next thing I know, the woman had made her way right up behind me and I turned around and she stood before me and said, "You have an aura about you. May I take your hand?" So I put out my hand. When she took a hold of my hand, a rush of what I can only describe as intense energy and a feeling that was so hard to fully describe. My head fell back as all I could see was light, like my eyes were flashlighting out. When she let go, she had my full attention as I was completely in awe of what just happened. She proceeded to tell me, "You're one of us now. You will have a job to do." I was in shock still and asked what she meant. What job? She answered, "I can't tell you now. You will know when it's time." So I am just flooded with feelings and felt like was about to cry, so I just excused myself to the bathroom to gather myself. I returned quickly, but she was gone. Then I began to have insane supernatural experiences. I would have to write a novel to go through how everything played out over several years. uBalenciagagucci. This isn't my story but my dad's. Years ago, in the 90s, before I was born but when my parents were still dating, a family friend who had been an 8 for years died. So basically my dad, grandparents, and my mom went to the funeral, and after everybody at a dinner outdoors on long tables, according to my grandparents, my dad's face suddenly went terribly pale. He's white Italian, so he's already pretty light, but he went pale, sickly pale, and he was staring off of the side a few feet away. When they looked where he was, it was already gone, but when they asked him what was wrong, he said, "It's him. I saw him sitting on the wall and smiling." He was so disturbed my mom had to drive him back home, but my grandparents stayed for a while. Since they drove separately, my grandma decided to tell the son what my dad had saw, and he went pale to saying he's been coming to me too. It turns out the outfit my dad describes him wearing was what he does, and he's visited multiple family members as it turns out, but my dad still gets weird thinking about why he came to him. __hedge. It was year 2014 and Christmas was just around the corner. Fun fact, Christmas season in my country starts on September 1st. Yeah, we insane. The region where I live is mostly where typhoons would make landfall first before hitting the rest of the country. We are constantly hit by strong typhoons, so we basically got used to it that we could sleep like any other night anyway. There was a really strong typhoon at the time. So just like any stormy night, there were no electricity. It was damp and cold and the rain and wind were pounding against my window. I didn't mind it since it was time for me to go to bed. Since I can't sleep if it was totally dark, I left a lit candle inside a basin with water, so I won't cause house fire on the floor, and instantly went to sleep. I don't usually know when I'm in a dream, and on this particular one, I was with a girl around my age. We were running up through flights of stairs. We were being chased by something and we know it will be bad if we got caught. We were running for what felt like a long time, then we suddenly went inside a room. It was my bedroom. The storm was still raging outside. Even the candle was left on the same spot on the floor. The girl quickly whispered to me to pretend to be asleep. I laid on my bed and pulled the covers up while the girl laid on another bed on the floor, which wasn't in my room in the first place. The candle was between us so I can see the light shine on her face. She kept staring at me. It was unnerving. Then the door suddenly opened and in comes my older sister. I was shocked. I knew she wasn't supposed to be home. She was away due to exams in the city, which is 12 hours away from home, and no buses would operate in this weather. I got up and confronted her. All she said was that she's home. I got really suspicious of her, thinking she was the thing that was chasing us. Without thinking, I grabbed her hand and dragged her to our parents' room next door. I yelled for my mom, screaming that my sister was home. When she opened the door, they talked as if nothing was wrong. I then felt relieved that she was really my sister. My suspicion gradually disappeared. Suddenly something grabbed my foot and I was slammed to the ground. It kept pulling me towards my parents' room. I yelled for help, but my mom and sister just kept on talking, ignoring me, or they just couldn't hear me. In my desperation, I distinctly remember grabbing something heavy like a furniture to prevent myself from being pulled, but the thing that grabbed my foot was a lot stronger. So the furniture got dragged along with me towards the pitch-black room. When I was dragged halfway through the door, there was the part where I woke up. It was like 12 to 1 a.m. in the evening and the storm was still going strong. I looked towards the candle, but the girl wasn't there anymore. I just blankly stared at the fire for a couple of minutes, then decided to go to my parents' room. The door was open, but nothing was out of ordinary. The funny thing was, I was more scared to stay in my room than my parents' bedroom. I became scared of the unknown girl I was with. I took my pillow and blanket and decided to sleep at my parents' bedroom floor. After a couple of days, since it was nearing Christmas Eve, my mom and I had to clean the entire house. I was busy in the living room while she was upstairs cleaning the bedrooms. She suddenly called me to come upstairs. I saw her standing just outside their bedroom door with a confused expression. When she saw me, she asked me if I moved the drawer just outside their room. I told her no. Bear in mind that this particular drawer was really heavy. It's full of random junk and it takes two adults to move it even just a little bit. She then asked everyone at home and they all said the exact same thing. No. By this point, I suddenly got a chill and every hair on my body stood up. I kept remembering my dream where I grabbed something heavy while I was being pulled inside their room. It couldn't be what I was thinking, that the thing I grabbed was the heavy drawer, and as I was dragged in my dream, it got dragged in real life. I was in denial and quite frightened. I eventually told my mom. Even she was creeped out by it. Up to this day, no one could explain how or who moved the drawer. Maju_Ren07. My aunt and uncle owned a house that had quite a history. It was a funeral home, a hospital, and a sanatorium long before they bought it with the dream of turning it into a bed and breakfast. There are 3 instances that really stick out. 1. We were emptying the basement out of old trash and we found a false wall revealing a secret cabinet with a hand in a jar. No idea what the hell it was all about. But later on that day we were all eating pizza and my cousins and I were wandering around and ended up at the base of the stairs to the basement where we could hear what sounded like children's whispers and laughter. 2. My cousins and I were going to clean the boxes out of the attic. It was pitch black, so my cousin grabs a flashlight and starts to head up. As soon as he gets into the attic, the flashlight dies. He comes down and it works again, but when he gets into the attic, it dies again. He climbed down and shined the light on the wall and into the attic, where again the light died. The light would not shine in the attic. 3. This is the last one. My cousins and I were in the balcony room. Supposedly it belonged to a rich elderly lady who was dying of TB and paid for this room to be redone. With a walkout balcony overseeing the town, my cousins and I walked out the edge of the balcony and gazed out when all of a sudden the door about 15 feet away slammed shut. It was the dead of winter and there was no wind. It slammed with so much force I had to really throw my shoulder into it to open the door again. My uncle, who was downstairs working, didn't hear a thing. There were a few other weird, unexplainable things that happened, but those three still stick with me like 10 years later. U/KB1091. Like and follow for more.